about pneumatic tubes, which is, believe it or not, a topic I find interesting. So how many of you remember a system like these, or old enough to maybe have experienced? Okay, all right, a little bit. So this is, of course, a device that delivers lollipops to children at banks. It was used at the drive-up teller, we don't know, and people would put like their checks in it and send it through the pneumatic tube over to the teller, and the teller would send whatever back. It always came with candy for the kids to buy. And at the time, beyond just the candy, I always thought it was so futuristic, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have one of these in my house someday. Right? And of course, I live in the future now, and I don't have one. But kids still find them fascinating. This is my youngest son, Elliot, playing with the pneumatic tube system at the Tucson Children's Museum. They don't get any lollipops from them, but they still find them really cool. They're actually a fixture in a lot of children's museums or science museums. Some of us are going to the Science Museum in Boston tomorrow, right? And they actually have a pneumatic tube system in the children's area. We'll get to look at it. We won't get to play with it because we won't have any children with us, and they don't let you in there. So despite how cool and futuristic they are, they're actually relatively simple, and the era of the pneumatic tube is actually seemingly in the past. In their heyday, before they were used in banks and hospitals like they are today, they were actually a vital part of postal systems. So all the late 1800 and early 1900 financial centers had major pneumatic systems. So this is a picture of Paris's extensive system. Paris is one of the more impressive ones because they had, for the time, a relatively modern sewer system. So they had great access to be able to run the pneumatic tubes through the sewers. And you see here, this is the sewer lined with all sorts of, dozens of pneumatic tubes. And here's what it looks like to operate a system like this. She has the canister in her hand, sending it into one tube that's going to go to the right place. In this time period, again, we're talking about late 1800s, early 1900s, maybe all the way up to the mid-1900s. Telegraphs are really common, a common way to send important communication, but they have a last mile problem. If the telegraph comes into the station at the edge of town or the edge of the city, you can relay that telegraph to the other side where it needs to be, or you can, which is a very manual process. The person has to decode the telegraph and then encode it back, things like that. Instead, they found that these pneumatic tube systems were a lot faster. They could decode the telegraph, send it off the pneumatic tube to the closest post station, and then get it to the person that it was intended for. This is a map of the Paris system as of 1967. It's not particularly important, but you can see that there's all sorts of connections, and it's very complicated and complex. At its peak, it had about 240 miles of tubes. That's 390-ish kilometers. The system was actually used all the way up until 1984 when it sent its last letter, and they decommissioned it because it was just too expensive to maintain and to connect to new postal stations. Prague system was actually used until 2002. They liked it there so much that they just refused to give it up until there was so much weather damage caused by a storm that it was just impractical to repair it. But that was, I believe, the last pneumatic post in operation was in Prague. So here is the French Pneumatic in operation. This is a scene from the movie Stolen Kisses or Stealing Kisses or something like that. But you can see, there's the operator folding up the tube, sending it on its way. While you watch it make its way through the complex series of tubes here, it's important to note that sometimes these canisters would get stuck along the way. And they need to figure out, well, where is the canister stuck? Where do we need to send somebody? And so they did as anybody would do. They took a pistol and they fired into the tube. And they would measure the sound waves, using echolocation. And they were actually able to get to within 2 to 3 meters, figuring out where the blockage was, and they would send somebody down. So this is really cool. This is all still really cool. So what happened? Why don't we have pneumatic tubes everywhere, right? The first blow was dealt by car culture and trucks. People started spreading out, which made pneumatic delivery not very feasible. Trucks came along and made it easy to deliver large amounts of things over long distances. The final blow was, of course, the ubiquity of electronic communication, first through the telephone and the fax, and ultimately through text messaging and email and things like that. And ultimately, it's no longer really important to deliver, it's no longer necessary to have a physical delivery of something to deliver a message. So we don't need these for that purpose. But it's not dead yet, right? Still in use in hospitals, still at use in banks. If any of you have a reason to go to a bank and talk to a human, you might use one. Roosevelt Island in New York City uses it for all trash collection. I don't have time to cover it. It's called the AVAC. It's really cool. It operates kind of like what you would think it was. It's just a tube that sucks away your garbage. Pneumatic tube aficionados had so many bigger ideas than just using them on the post. If you go back and look through like histories of sketches and what they dreamed of using them, it was all looking like this, right? Something from the Jetsons. Transporting people has always been the dream. And actually, New York City's first subway system was a 100-meter pneumatic tube system along Broadway, I believe. And it served hundreds of thousands of people. There was always plans to expand it, but after a few years, eventually it was kind of ruled impractical to expand and it shut down, and we ended up with the subway system we have today. But we have this idea of the Hyperloop, which Elon Musk and other people are putting forward. And you know, it's a little bit fancier of a pneumatic tube, and the train obviously has some much more fancy technology going on, but at its base, it's based on the same principles, which proves that ultimately, everything is a remix.